Hello, everybody. Welcome back into MedStar, Capitals, Iceplex. A rainy day outside, but a lot of exciting news here inside. I am Katie Florio, joined by Tarek El-Bashir and Alan May. Thanks, guys, as always. We have an exciting show coming up because breaking news as of last night, Cole Hutson has officially signed his contract with the Washington Capitals. He is here in D.C. getting acclimated this week. We expect to see him at practice tomorrow for the Capitals. But guys, this is a big week. Should be a lot of fun seeing this highly touted prospect make his NHL debut.
It feels like we've been talking about Cole Hutson for like 5 years now. In reality, it's only been a few months. But yeah, I mean, in terms of anticipation, I would say this was as highly anticipated as Ryan Leonard just a year ago. This is a player that, based on his NCAA resume, is going to come in here and at some point in the very near future make a big impact for this team. You know, is he going to play Wednesday against Ottawa, a very important game still for the Capitals as they're trying to close the gap for the playoffs? I would say maybe tap the brakes a little bit. Maybe Friday against the Devils. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But, you know, he's going to be a very good player for this organization for a long time.
Yeah, no one around pro hockey is shocked that he's signed already. And, you know, you're anticipating, you're watching every game that they have this season, and then their playoff matches. And as soon as his team was bumped out on Saturday, you know it was just a matter of time, Sunday or this morning, that he'd be signed to that contract. When you look at a player like this, what excites me about him is that he dominated the World Junior Championships, and I think the biggest thing that when you can do that, and especially last season, this year he was injured. Last year, last December, last January, he was 3-8-11. He led the entire tournament in points. Anytime you're the best player in the WJC, you are going to be able to play in the National Hockey League. You have every opportunity in front of you. It means that you've got the skill, that you're a play driver, and that you play at your best when you're playing with players that are more talented. And as a matter, you know, it's going to be just like Ryan Leonard. It is a very hard league to play in. The size goes up with the average player. The average skating ability drastically improves. So he's going to have to deal with that. Excellent coaching at this level. It's kind of a free-for-all with some of the college programs. And so you got to learn positionally how good you have to be without the puck. We all know what he can do with the puck. It's going to be a matter when he can take chances, when he can do things like that, and then how the big guys play against him, because all these cocky young guys that come in the National Hockey League, guys want to show them what's up.
Yeah.
No doubt he has racked up the accolades in college, led all NCAA defensemen in points the past 2 years, a gold medalist as well at the World Junior Championships. But you mentioned Ryan Leonard in this position last year. No doubt that it is a hard jump to go from NCAA hockey 1 week to the NHL the next week. And so we saw with Ryan, and we've said many times, he'll be the first to tell you that, yeah, this maybe humbled me a little bit. But Alan, we'll start with you. What do you expect this jump to be like for him and what he hopes to accomplish?
Well, the details of the game are so different at the National Hockey League level. When you look at all the skill players that play in junior hockey, NCAA, they get away with murder as far as defensively, what they do with the puck and how they manage it, and then what they do without the puck. Defensive coverage isn't just coming back into your own zone and saying, I'm here. That's not defensive hockey. You've got to learn the nuances of the game.
Absolutely.
So Patrick Weller's got a lot of work to do, but you don't want to give the kid too much information because he is going to be here for his skill set. What I love about Ryan Leonard right now is that he's got the enthusiasm. He's trying things that are kind of risky, but at the same time, so many coaches beat the living creativity out of every single young skill player. And what I love about the Montreal Canadiens, where his brother Lane dominated last year and is doing an incredible job this year, is Marty St. Louis is letting those young guys, Cole Caulfield, Hudson, Demidov, all those guys utilize their skill level, and that is their strength. So that will be what they do with Cole, and I'm looking forward to see in some highlight reel moves out of him and plays. But it's a hard league to play in, and I know that I wasn't ready when I was his age. I knew I needed to play pro hockey for at least 3 years before I got to the big leagues, and then I knew I was ready to be able to get by and learn to improve.
You know, Alan, and to your point, I talked to Ryan Leonard about Cole. I remember they were teammates on the National Development Program for a couple of years, and I said, you know, just take me back to a year ago. Like when you first jumped into the NHL, like what's the one thing that stood out to you? And he said, in a word, structure. He said there's just no more freelancing. He acknowledged it took him a little bit of time to understand that you can no longer dance through 2 or 3 guys at the blue line. Sometimes you have to make the safe play. And so it's even different for a forward versus a defenseman. You know, we talk about young defensemen all the time in this league, and most coaches will tell you it takes 200 games or so before a defenseman is really comfortable playing against NHL competition. Not so much with a forward. So I hope that fans, you know, are excited because he's going to be a game changer, but also temper your expectations. The learning curve, especially for a defenseman, an undersized defenseman, is going to be quite significant. He's going to be a great player. It just might take him a little bit of time.
Well, Washington specifically has a very steady blue line. We've seen the offensive production from Jacob Chychrun. Rasmus Sandin has elevated his game the past few weeks, it seems. So where do you think specifically Cole will fit in this Capitals blue line?
Well, that's why the coaches get paid the 7-figure salaries to figure that out, and general managers too. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. The game that we saw, the easiest thing to do would be to be able to take Liljegren out of the lineup. But I thought he was phenomenal against the Boston Bruins the other day. I loved his game. And just like Rasmus Sandin, they're two guys that took a little while to cook and really find their game. About 25 years old, they really started to blossom. The Rasmus Sandin we got when we first got in the trade, it was great offensively at the start, but it was a disaster defensively until he calmed down and learned how to play in the National Hockey League. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the team with the way they have it. They want to have the veteran players in the lineup. I look at most of the guys. Every guy actually deserves to be in the lineup, so it'd be tough to pull anyone out. I wouldn't be surprised to see 11-7 and spot him in and get him in there. And, you know, coaches, they do every bizarre, weird scenario when it comes into their decisions, but it's tough. So the next game really determines, and not to put pressure on all the players, but they all have to play well in the next game. There's a couple guys that are never coming out of lineup no matter what. It would be Chychrun, it would be Faravari, it would be Sandin. And you look at this, and Matt Roy, so, you know, TVR, he's been steady. And I look at Liljegren, he has been excellent the last few games. And so he's impressed me. Actually, the last game was the best game I've ever seen him play in his entire career of any game I've seen him skate in.
You know, if you rewind a couple of weeks, Chris Patrick around the deadline was asked where he sees Cole Hutson slotting in. He said, he wanted to be very careful there, but he said, you know, a guy like Liljegren would be a good guy to pair him with. But I do agree with your point about going 11-7 maybe, and just kind of introducing Cole in spots just to make sure he's getting comfortable. But one other thing, you know, a lot of fans have hit me up on Twitter and like, why are we signing this player and burning the first year of his entry-level contract? Well, there are a few reasons. Number one, players like Cole Hutson, they kind of hold the cards at this point, right? I mean, it's they've been drafted by the Capitals, but when the Capitals approach him, he could easily go, you know what, maybe I'll go back to BU if you don't sign me and put me right in. They kind of hold
a perfect example of that, and I see it on X all the time, or Twitter. And, you know, the big thing is Cutter Gauthier
absolutely
was promised
scared teams
by the people that were running the Philadelphia Flyers that he was going to come in and he was going to sign when the season was over. He was so upset because he had probably told everybody at the same time, the players hold the cards, and who cares whether they burn the contract? The fans need to start to look at it.
Fans care more than the managers do about burning that first year.
But they have to, and it's not their money, it's not their contracts, it's not their draft picks. What you have to do is he's an asset.
Right.
And if he wants to come out and play, and if he wanted to come out last year, you sign him. And you encourage him, say, wait a year. Let's go, cook some more in college. Get some meat on your bones. Have the unlimited food pass at the dining hall at BU and the weight room that the collegiate players get. And so when I look at that, who cares about his contract? Because you have to just get guys in, and then we'll see what the development process is for them.
And the other reason is you give him 14 games, and let's say they make the playoffs, whether they make it or not, he is now going to know when he goes into the offseason exactly how far he's got to still get to be able to compete at this level. Because, again, competing against 23, 24-year-olds at NCAA, and yes, he dominated World Juniors, but he's going to go out there against 29, 30, 31-year-old guys that feed their families playing hockey, right? He is going to now, like Ryan Leonard did, go into the offseason going, yeah, you know what? I better put the clubs away and get my butt into the weight room and really focus on my body and getting stronger, because next year is going to be an 82-game grind, and he will now know exactly what it takes.
Both make a lot of great points right there, and there is still a lot to learn about Cole Hutson. So for more on him, Tarek had the chance to sit down with assistant GM Ross Mahoney.
Let's jump right into it. We're talking about Cole Hutson today. What do you make of his sophomore season right now at BU?
I thought Cole had a very good year. I think the team was a little bit younger, so they probably got off to a bit of a slower start. But I just saw them play a home and home with Boston College about 2 weeks ago, and BU played very well. He also had experience of playing again in the World Junior Tournament for the U.S. Too bad he got hurt,
Right.
partway through the tournament. But no, really happy with Cole's season this year and his progression that he's made.
What in your mind makes him stand out amongst other, elite players for his age?
Yeah, it's his hockey IQ, I think, is off the charts. He's so smart. Sometimes I even look at what he's doing. I wonder what's he doing, and all of a sudden there's a nice pass to some guy that's wide open. So sometimes he even fools the old scout. Um, but no, he's very, very bright. He's got excellent feet. He can really skate. He's so agile. He's got great escapability, in the sense that he seems to be able to, you know, avoid getting hit hard, avoid the forecheck. And he's so patient with the puck, and it really comes out on the power play where there's lots of times, the guy's coming out to check him. I think he's going to dump it back down in the corner or move it to, a defense partner, and he holds onto it, seems to drag, pull everybody towards him, and then he finds the empty man and passes. It's just, it's a confidence, I think, that he obviously believes in his skill, but it really comes through for me that he just is so confident with the puck and makes so many good decisions. And that skating is, it's pretty elite when it comes down to it at the end of the day.
I interviewed Coach Pandolfo earlier this week, and he mentioned all the things you did, but he also talked about his competitiveness. He just hates to lose. Like he just wants to do everything to help the team win. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, and I mean, you're always looking for that. I mean, I don't think I've ever met a really good hockey player or football player or anybody else that enjoyed losing. I think when those guys take it personal, like Cole seems to take it personal, then I think that only pushes them to continue to become better and better and better. And yeah, no, it really he takes a loss, and you look at him, you watch his body language after a game, and he's disappointed,
Yeah.
disappointed in himself that he, couldn't help the team more win. And you love that competitiveness. It really shows somebody that really cares and wants to do everything they can to try to help their team win.
Well, no doubt there is a lot to like about Cole Hutson, but guys, this is a very exciting time in the organization because there are several other up-and-coming guys. We say the name Ilya Protas all the time, Ryan Chesley, whoever it might be, whether it will be the end of this season or next season. There is a huge core group of prospects that are going to start making the transition into Capitals very soon.
Yeah, I mean, Ivan Miroshnichenko, he's actually here right now. He hasn't played since he's been called up from Hershey, but there's a core group of, I would say, 4 or 5 players. And it's been a long time since this has been a veteran-laden team that was always nibbling around the edges and adding players to the core. I hate this cliche, but really the baton is being passed right now. The torch is being passed. We are witnessing this in real time right now. And like you mentioned, Katie, I mean, Ilya Protas is going to be here sooner than later. I think we're going to see him play some games this year. He might win a spot out of training camp next year. Ryan Chesley is also going to make his mark. Andrew Crystal. I think at some point Ivan Miroshnichenko is going to be a full-time right wing on this team. It might take a little bit of time into next season, but the page is being turned, and the young guns of 2010s. It's now going to be a different group.
Well, the team got drastically younger in the course of the last week as well. When you look at it, and I thought the speed, no shots at anybody, but the speed and enthusiasm the last little while with the team, the way they've played. I thought the first game was a dud that they all played. I thought they were all under negative mind control with what happened to 2 of the older guys that they absolutely loved and adored. But when you look at all the young players, the development process of Hershey, they might not be the top of the standings this year, but they don't have all the older guys getting in the way. So these younger players are getting more reps, more minutes than they would normally get. So stay healthy, stay in the game. And I'm a big believer, if you have to start the American Hockey League, it takes 2 to 3 seasons full, just like it took with McMichael and Protas, who are still young guys in this organization. We've seen a bump up in the production and the play of Hendrix Lapierre lately. So it takes time to build your confidence, to get your skills, to get the right weight and meat on your bones in all the right places. And you look at, then we go back to the junior leagues, and you still have a first-rounder, Parasak, and you look at, we've got our other first,
Lyndon
Lakovic,
yep,
who's got an injury right now that he's going to rehab from. But at the same time, as those players grow into their bodies, especially Lakovic, a huge human,
yeah,
and gets stronger and redevelops from his injury, there's a lot of really good-looking young hockey players. And I look at, we're all talking about these guys in Hershey, but Lyndon Lakovic is not to be slept upon, because
you're right,
he looks like a player. And when you watch him in development camp and everything that we've seen him, he's really gone.
Even against the grown men, he looked pretty good.
And once again, you look at guys like Alexei Protas. Once those baby giraffes grow into the full-grown giraffe, they're a hell of a hockey player. And I'm expecting that with, like, Little Pro. I say he's like the baby giraffe right now. Continue to enhance your game, but at the same time, the work you do in the gym, the work you do in the off-season, it excels you and develops your play.
Tarek, where do you see those guys like Lakovic and Parasak, kind of their trajectory? Obviously, it's very rare, guys like Ryan Leonard, Cole Hutson, to make that jump straight from college to the NHL. So if you had to maybe speculate their timeline right now, what would you say?
I checked in on Lakovic when I was talking to Ross. It was off camera, and he said he's on track from the upper body surgery that he had in the offseason. Unfortunate, he lost a few months of development, but he was dominating the WHL before he got hurt. And so was Parasak. At one point, they were kind of going back and forth.
Neck and neck, yeah.
They were neck and neck, which is always nice to see. The next step for these guys, and even though they are elite prospects and top prospects, I don't think they are going to be in position to make the jump right to the NHL. I think those guys need to go down to Hershey, learn the pro game. It's such a great development model down there, and just the connection and the relationship between Hershey and Washington is just so good. Mm-hmm. I think those guys go down there, they learn to be pros. I would say they're probably 2 years away from kind of really starting to push for some playing time here in Washington. But you know what? I didn't know what to expect with Lakovic last year. He came in and was great against the rookies, but then against the grown men, it was like, wait a minute. This guy, he's really, really good. People were talking about him as a guy who might be on that accelerate track. Unfortunately, the injury set him back a little bit, but he'll recover fully.
Well, pro hockey can be humbling for the greatest of junior and collegiate players,
no doubt.
And when you get there, and I do think it's easier to play with the NHL players because everyone's where they're supposed to be, and you've got to learn yourself. But all of a sudden, there's actually more ice at certain times, and then there's less ice at other times. But once again, you've got to put your work in during the offseason. You've got to have the right attitude. The NHL is hard. We saw a lot of people that thought they were going to come up and dominate. They didn't have the right attitude. They didn't look at themselves and say they have to work harder and do more. Got to improve my skating. I got to improve my strength. I've got to improve my decisions. And that's part of the development curve. That's why we have development coaches everywhere, like a great guy like Brooks Orpik. And you look at that for defensemen. Steve Richmond, he's been around longer than I've been around. He was like an old guy when I played with him, and he's been in this game.
A long time.
He's been the general's been in the game developing players forever, and just having people like that is so critically important. And if you buy into what they're selling, they're doing it for you. They're trying to help your career.
Yeah.
You can be the best that you can be. It's important to have people like that in your organization.
I wanted to piggyback on a comment you made a second ago about guys being in the right place, and sometimes for those elite players, it actually is easier to make the jump to the NHL because it's crisper and the passes are exactly where they're supposed to be. One thing that Chris Patrick said, and I read this in a comment, but also Ross Mahoney said, it was Cole Hutson often makes plays that are so next level that at BU they were wasted because he would make a pass and the guy wouldn't be there.
Couldn't handle it.
It couldn't handle it or just wasn't ready for it or just wasn't in the right spot. In the NHL, Tom Wilson's there to tap the puck in.
He'll be ready.
Because he's thinking the game at the same level that Cole Hutson is thinking the game.
I would say it was easier for him to do it a year ago with the team that they had at BU in comparison to the roster that they had this year when you look at the guys that they had. His brother Quinn Hutson is tearing apart the American Hockey League right now. He was the leading scorer with 58 points or 50 points 2 years ago. Cole is right behind him at 48.
And there's another Hudson in the pipeline. Yeah. Like a young one. I can't believe it. How much talent is in one
something in those
family?
Hudson
Crazy.
genes. We will see. Well, a lot to like about the prospects, no doubt. But There's 14 games left of this season, and it is very clear that the belief that this team can still make playoffs is there. No doubt it will be a challenge. If you're looking at it mathematically, you can maybe suffer, 2-3 more losses, but I know that the Capitals' mindset is pick up points every single game, and that will start Wednesday night against the Ottawa Senators, a team that they are chasing right there in the standings for that wild card spot. So, Alan, we'll begin with you on this one. Looking ahead to Wednesday, what do the Capitals have to do against them in really every game moving forward?
Well, when you look at, the different stats out there that, the analytical people like moneypuck.com, the Caps have such a small chance, but you never look at it that way. Every guy in this roster, minus the superstars, has had to overcome at different levels. And you have to have that attitude. And I don't want you on my team, and I don't think they have players in that dressing room and that skate on this ice that don't have the attitude that we can go out and win every game. But you still got to do it. You've got to put all your intensity in there, and you can't worry about how many wins you need because it's too daunting.
Yeah.
What you do is there's a one-game playoff on Wednesday night against the Ottawa Senators. You have to look at it that way. Tom Wilson, Dylan Strome, Matt Roy, the older guys in the room, Pierre-Luc Dubois, they've got to make sure that everyone's ready and everyone's pulling their weight. And every one of those defenders, the goaltenders, everyone's got to be at their tip-top best. And that attitude, like I said, we haven't seen guys with bad attitudes here because there's been such a great culture. You don't have an Oshie anymore. You don't have a Backy anymore. You don't have a Carly. And with those guys gone, they've got to, that's where the torch gets passed as well. People have to step up a little bit, not change their personalities.
Yep.
But every game you go out, and the other teams no one's been taking it and just going crazy with it. Columbus kind of was, but all the other teams, they're win one, lose one.
Yep.
And just do your work, and the other teams are going to mess themselves up. We've seen Detroit in a cycle because they've had some major injuries. We've seen Pittsburgh be somewhat inconsistent because they've lost Crosby, they've lost Malkin, but they're still finding a way to eke out points. So to me, the biggest thing, we talked about this on a production call, you've got to make sure if you're tied in the game in the third period, you get to overtime.
Get a point.
And get that point. And it drives people crazy, like overtime records and shootout
loser
records.
Points,
but those points,
matter.
and I hate loser points, but on the other side of it, find a way to get those points because you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, I believe we do have more wins than them, but they got a whole lot of those points in that third column
and they're
that
banged
matter.
up.
And they found a way to sneak out and chisel those points.
Yeah.
So the Caps have to do that. My perfect world, they go 7-0-7, if not better. And, otherwise you go 8-0-6. And that's kind of in the point frame that you need to get. But once again, don't sell yourself short. Believe that you can do it and just fight in every single game that you play.
When I first started covering this league 20-some-odd years ago, I used to get frustrated when players would go, we're just going to take it one game at a time, one day at a time. I was always like, you're just blowing me off with some cliche.
Hear that
like
all
this.
the time.
But you know what? The more I got to know guys and hear it from retired guys like you, it really is a mindset. It's a special way these guys are able to focus. Like, if you start worrying about New Jersey on Friday or Colorado on Sunday, you're not going to get the job done against Ottawa on Wednesday. Again, another cliche. The Capitals have to not only be singularly focused on what's in front of them, they just can't get caught up in the big picture. How many points we might need to get? Do we get to 98? Do we have to get to 100? Just worry about getting off to a good start against Ottawa, and then you get off to a good start, now you worry about having a good second period. Then you worry about having a good third period. It's a really special trait for pro athletes. And again, I always thought it
took me years to break you. It took me years. No, seriously, because even if you look at coaching staffs, and I've seen coaches that on a back-to-back, they're worried so much about the second game, and I think it affects the first game. Just worry about that first damn game, and then the next day, systematically reset. We saw it last week. They go into Philadelphia. It's a dud. Philadelphia plays a very good, solid defensive game. The next game, people are wondering by the shot differentials and the actual shots on net in the first period. The Capitals took away the middle of the ice. Tage Thompson had all those one-timers on the power play, but they were ready for that. And so it was a matter of going out, and everyone would have bet the farm. 99.5% of what they have in their pockets would have went to the better. But when you look at it, they found a way to squeak out that win, and that's exactly what you have to do.
The Buffalo game is a prime example of that, but no question, goaltending, Logan Thompson, and even Charlie Lindgren outstanding in that game against Buffalo, keeping this team in there, allowing to pick up points, gets wins. Both goals against Boston on Saturday come from defensemen, so it was great to see last Monday that breakout game. The Capitals put up 7 goals, 2 goals from Connor McMichael, 3-point night for Justin Sordiff. How do they get that offense going again? Because no doubt that's been a little bit of the problem.
Well,
Go to
it's
the
the
net.
toughest time of the year, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I think you got to get pucks on net. You've got to play gritty. The reason the defender scored the other day is because he had bodies at the net front. And that's where the money's made in this league.
Yep.
You got to screen the goalies. You got to find rebounds. Hopefully, it bounces off of you. It bounces off of them. But once again, every single player that's getting a jersey, they've got to be at their best right now. You can't have any passengers. And the offense, whether you win 10-2 or 3-2, you got to find a way just to get that W.
I want to see some greasy goals. I mean, I'd love to see the power play get going.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be kind of hoping at this point. It's been a long year. At some point, they're going to regroup and figure that out. But I want to see guys go as hard at that blue paint as possible. You're right. Both those goals came on screens. That is such an important thing. But it's been a while since I've seen, like, not just a redirection, but like a goalie kick out, make a nice kick out save, and then someone right there to bang in the rebound. I want to see more of that.
Tom Wilson last week. Remember,
Yeah,
there was net front, and he was
absolutely.
waiting
Chance.
patiently on the goal line and got that. It's a tough angle to
Tough
put that
angle
in.
and put it in.
And so just little plays like that, they really add up. But at the same time, you've got to play greasy and gritty. If you play a pretty game, you're not going anywhere. And if you're a pretty hockey
Not
team,
this time of year, especially.
and you get in the playoffs, if you play pretty, we're all sitting on a beach somewhere drinking daiquiris and margaritas. So you've got to play a hard, physical game to create your offense and for your defense. And I love the game. Even though they lost today, I love the game against Boston.
They played
I feel
great.
that there were some
Yeah.
players that need to elevate a little bit more. But I love the work of all 6 defensemen the
Yeah.
other night.
Well,
I
like
agree.
I said, there is still belief in that room. And for more on that belief, I had the chance to catch up with the captain, Alex Ovechkin. I appreciate you joining today, and I want to start with the departure of obviously John Carlson and Nick Dowd, two guys, leaders on this team that have obviously moved on. But with that being said, who are some of the other guys in this locker room over the course of the past year or so you've really noticed step into leadership roles?
Yeah, obviously it's hard lost, but nothing we can do. We are players, and we have to play. Doesn't matter what kind of situation it is. But I think for the guys like Stromer, Roy, Dubois, Pro, those guys. Bye. Have fun. Those guys have to step up and be leaders because those guys was. On the ice, off the ice, there was great guys. So and obviously we miss them, but it is what it is.
And on the younger side, guys like Ryan Leonard and Justin sort of having incredible years. How have you seen their game evolve over the course of this season?
Yeah, I think for them to have those players, to see how we act on the ice and off the ice, it's helped them because I was in the same position, when I have Jeff Halpern, Dylan Zubrus, Chris Clark, all those guys who was experience, who have leadership, and I grown up to watching them, and it's helped me a lot. So I'm pretty sure they're watching it, and they're gonna learn it too.
You touched on some of these guys, but guys like Logan Thompson, Jacob Chikrin, Alexei Protas, who have really established themselves here. How have they transformed the core of this team with what they've been able to accomplish in Washington?
Yeah, obviously you can see Cheeky right now, he's on fire, and obviously LT was Olympic team, and obviously he's I think top goalie in the league, and what you can say about the Pro, he's machine, he's driving us, he's a big boy, and he's gonna be one of the best players if he's going to continue to do what he's doing right now.
It's obviously very unfortunate for the team as a whole when Pierre-Luc Dubois was injured long-term so early on, but for him to come back, not just ahead of schedule, but produce right away, how has that fueled the team in this home stretch?
Yeah, obviously we miss him, but I think that stretch, we don't have him, it's give time to sort of Michael, Lappy to get ice time, to feel the pressure for themselves, and I'm pretty sure they get the time for the right spot.
Last one for you. 14 games remain. What is the message to the team down the stretch?
Well, we have to collect the points and keep fighting. You never know what's going to happen, right? If you win one game and other team lose, we get closer to a playoff. So we just have to find a way to get those points and keep fighting.
Alex, really appreciate your time. Finally, like you said, thank you so much and good luck this week.
Thank you.
Really appreciate Alex Ovechkin being able to sit down with us yesterday. But, guys, he said it best right there. We're just worried about collecting the points. I know that's what you all said, but a lot of compliments there throughout the course of the interview from several of his other teammates as well. Teddy Wilson. Little Teddy Wilson was in there after practice with his dad. He's tiny, but you can tell he's going to be the future Wilson star one day.
I love it.
So lots going on in the locker room. But with that being said, even, to even have Teddy and guys in there, the vibes are still high in there. We are here every single day. We see it. I can't reiterate enough how this team knows that they are not out of it. So with 14 games remaining, what needs to happen?
Well, you have to believe that it can happen. And once again, you need a lot more emotion in your games. You have to be fired up physically. I think more skirmishes after the whistles within discipline. I think you've got to up the ante physically. And if a team's coming here flying, you've got to disrupt the game between the whistles. And then, during the play, you've got to make sure you play a hard, grindy game. Don't pass up opportunities, and make sure that everything's on the money. More intensity on the power play. The penalty kill has had a huge uptick lately. It's been excellent. The power play, it was going along all right, and it looked better the other day against Boston. But at the same time, you've just got to up it in everything. I think just the emotional buy-in, the intensity from everyone, just ramp it up, and you'll see that wins will come your way.
The great equalizer in this game is the goaltender, right? I mean, I think you can make the argument that there's no position in pro sports that can influence the outcome of a game more than goaltender. And Logan Thompson right now is dialed. So I hope that the Capitals are able to cash in on the fact that they've got one of the best goalies in the league, and he is on fire right now. And to Alan's point, I definitely want to see them step it up emotionally and physically. And look, we don't know what Alex Ovechkin is going to do, but we know this is the last year of his contract. There's 14 games left that are guaranteed of Alex Ovechkin in Washington, D.C. I hope his teammates kind of take that to heart and go, hey, we don't want this. We don't want our captain, the best player who's ever laced him up to score goals in this game. We don't want it to end like this. Let's pull together and do it for Ovi. So I don't think Ovi's the kind of guy that'll say, "Hey, one more ride, let's go, guys." But I hope that just inside that room, they understand the gravity of what they are, who they're playing with, and they just got to find a way to keep his season going and let him make his decision in the offseason. I
think the less they have going on up here, the less complicated they make it, and just keep everything simple and not really. I love Ovi, and I know that the players love Ovi, but at the same time, just go out and play the games. I don't want to call it a distraction because it is important, but once again, just continue everyone to be at their best and maybe in honor of him, but dedicate your game or whatever it is to him and just play with so much pride that you never let yourself down, your teammates down, your family, or the franchise.
I think just their effort against Boston shows us they have not thrown in the towel.
No, not at all. They have not quit.
They are still emotionally invested and engaged.
Look what they did in Buffalo.
Absolutely. The Buffalo game, they have to start getting some results and getting some points.
Yep.
Final thoughts from each of you. Pierre-Luc Dubois, when he came back from the injury, he was on fire right away. Maybe a little bit quieter over the past few games. Ryan Leonard is someone who has heated up. He was on a 5-game point streak, goals in 3 straight. And so for this final stretch with this whole team not quitting, put it in, who is one guy specifically that you would like to see really go on a tear here to put that emphasis?
Well, I really think it's 2 guys. It's going to be Strome and Dubois because the top 2 centers really dictate the quality of play every night. And I think the intensity, and they've got to have production, even though you want production from everyone, but those guys really have to bring it. I've loved what I've seen out of the younger guys, Sorda, LaPierre. I don't want to leave anyone out, but the defensemen, I've thought that they've played very well. And once again, it's your top 2 centers dictate your game. And I want to see them bring their best every single night here on out.
I know you said one player.
You can pick more.
I'm going to go with one position group.
Okay.
Again, goaltender.
Yeah.
These guys can level the playing field. When your team is struggling to score goals, your goals are coming from defensemen, your forwards, maybe are a little bit snake bitten. If Logan Thompson allows 1 goal, you still got a chance. Even 2 goals, you got a chance. Charlie Lindgren, he's going to get some starts here down the stretch. I just hope they continue to play the way they have over the past several weeks and give their team a chance to win every single night.
I have zero worries about those two. Absolutely
Good
no
to
worries.
know. No worries.
No.
They've been locked steady all week long, all season long. But thank you both very much for your insight, as always. Always fun breaking down Capitals hockey with you. A fun week ahead. Cole Hutson, playoff stretch, lots going on. So thank you all for tuning in at home. We will be right back with you on Monday for another edition of Rink Report Live.